Welcome to the Evidence That Demands a Verdict Bible study. We're thrilled that you're going to be joining us for these 6 sessions. We're going to look at some of the biggest, most important questions in life, such as, can we know truth? Did Jesus rise from the grave? Is Jesus really God? And can we trust the Bible as being reliable? Looking forward to going on that journey with you. Now, before we jump into today's topic, I think it might be helpful if you would kind of frame this series for us by sharing really your journey, your story that led you to kind of question the Christian faith and ultimately become a Christian and write evidence that demands a verdict.
We all have a story. Mine started as a young kid in a small town about 1800. Growing up, my father was a town alcoholic. And if you've ever had an alcoholic parent, every day of your life you have shame. And literally, when he wasn't trying to kill my mother, I was trying to kill him. And then from 6 to 13 years of age, for 7 years, every single week, once or twice a week, I was homosexually raped by a man by the name of Wayne Bailey. And it just about destroyed everything in my life, and my own parents wouldn't stop it. And so by the time I got to university, I was bitter, I was angry, I was hurt, I was wounded, and I was mad. And when I saw some Christians at the university, their lives were different. So, of course, out of curiosity, I said, come on, what changed your lives? And this young lady just looked me right in the eye and said 2 words I never thought I'd hear in the university. She just said, Jesus Christ. And I lit into him. I'm sick and tired of that religion, the church, the Bible, Christianity, and Christians. And then I couldn't believe it. They challenged me right there to intellectually, to use my mind, to examine 2 things, the Bible's being true and the Word of God, and Jesus Christ being the Messiah, the Son of God, which I thought was one big joke. But to shut them up, I accepted their challenge, and in the process, I became a believer. And what brought me to Christ was 2 things. One was the evidence. The evidence showed me that the Bible was true and Jesus Christ is the Messiah. But that didn't bring me to Christ. All that did was get my attention. What brought me to Christ was the love of God. When I saw in the scriptures that if I was the only person in the world, Christ still would have died for me. So it was actually the love of Christ that brought me to Christ, but it was the evidence that showed me that it was true.
So really, in a sense, this series is about learning to love people. It's not about getting into arguments. It's not about getting online and taking something you've heard and proving that as a point is right or wrong. Really what apologetics is, which is this series is about, is kind of clearing away stumbling blocks that people have on their journey to Christ. So really this is a way of loving people. Now my story obviously would be quite different than your story.
I hope so.
Yeah, definitely. Growing up in a Christian home, honestly, I never remember the moment where I first became a Christian. I just remember always believing it made sense. In fact, I probably thought people weren't Christians because they just hadn't read Evidence Demands a Verdict. Like, how hard is it? But then when I got to the university, this is the mid-90s, I started reading some blogs that began on kind of the atheist web, responding chapter by chapter to Evidence That Demands a Verdict, by doctors, lawyers, historians. And it really threw me for a loop. I knew you meant well, I knew there were good reasons, but for the first time in my life, I remember thinking, gosh, what if Christianity's false? What if this isn't actually true? And I knew I wanted to kind of tell you where I was at questioning this, and we were in Breckenridge, Colorado. Went out for some coffee, and I remember we sat down, and I just looked you in the eyes. I said, Dad, I gotta be honest with you. I wanna know what's true, but I'm just not sure that I'm convinced Christianity's true. I have a lot of questions. And I remember your response was something effective. You said, son, I think that's great. And my next thought was, Dad, are you even
I just said, man, that's thrilling, son. That's exciting.
And I think that's because, as you would say, you've always taught me to love truth, to follow after truth. And you said, I can't live on your convictions. I've got to find out what is really true and live for it. And ultimately, you're confident I'd be led to the scriptures and the Christian faith because Christianity is true. And you said your mom and I would love you no matter what. I don't think I stopped believing, but that was a real moment where I thought, okay, I've got to know what I think. I've got to examine the evidence and know for myself if I think Christianity's true. So tell me, or tell us, why is evidence important for Christians, especially today?